All right, let's officially start 1 p.m. right on time, our weekly exercise coaching call. It is Monday, November 10th. And yeah, so let me make sure that the audio, okay, external microphone. Hopefully it's canceling out any background noise because I know there's a couple people talking behind me. So I can open it up. Does anybody have any specific questions, updates, things that they want to talk about today? Feel free to unmute or put a message in the chat.
Um, I have a question. Always, I have a
Mm-hmm.
question. I'm sorry, guys.
No, I
I
appreciate. I'm glad you have a question. Someone's got to have a question to
I'm
talk about.
doing I've noticed I'm doing a weird thing. Or maybe I'm just more aware that I'm doing it because of something you said. So I feel like I'm not losing my balance, but I feel more like that's going to happen, or I do feel more off balance. And so I remember you saying one time, like, are you putting your weight just to the class on the front of your feet? Is it on the back of your feet? When you're standing. So I've noticed I tend to put my weight on the front of my feet more than not. Um, and then I'm noticing when I go to turn, and for some reason I turn to my right a lot. I don't know if it's the way my kitchen's set up or if it's because I'm right-handed, but I don't move my right foot. I move my left foot across my right leg, which I don't think is a winning move. So we were doing exercises, maybe it was Marie, and we were kind of turning and marching, like lifting up our feet, and we're supposed to turn around in 6 steps or something. So should that be my strategy? Like to try and march when I'm turning? I know that sounds so stupid, but something is going wrong and I'm not sure how to fix it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a great question. Great thing to talk about. I think one is, you had the fall and injured your ribs. So that was how many weeks ago now? 5 weeks. So your exercise has been different since then. So, I mean, anytime we have a fall, it's a little bit jarring to our system, um, and can make you be a little bit concerned about having falls, of which makes sense. Like that is the appropriate response after having a fall with an injury is to be concerned about this happening. So just that concern though can kind of affect how we move and our comfort level with movement. And we can change, we can move a little bit differently because of that and be more cautious, which is appropriate, but also important, um, not to change how we move so much that, we're actually like limiting our movement too much. But then you had an actual rib injury, so you have not been able to exercise like you normally do. And when you have Parkinson's, a lot of times, when you exercise on a regular basis, you can tell that it's helping you and you have to take a break for whatever reason, whether you're traveling, you have an injury, you got sick, there's some reason why you can't exercise. It's common to feel the difference. And so I think you just have the combination of, a normal response to a fall, in terms of being more cautious. And I also think you're experiencing a little bit of an exacerbation to your symptoms because of not being able to exercise the way you normally do. Um, what you're experiencing sounds a little bit like freezing, that when you go towards the right, that right foot isn't just lifting up and easily taking a step to the right as it should. And that's a very common response, that when you start to go this way, you've got weight on your right foot, so you can't move it. So that's why your left foot is the one stepping over, because when you go to the right, your weight's on the right side. And
Mhm.
normally our brain is able to say, weight is on the right side, but I need to take a step with my right foot, and very quickly kind of essentially shift your weight off the right so that you can take a step. But that is a high level fast thing that has to happen. And Parkinson's impacts weight shifting, as well as just balance and where you are in the first place. So that's basically what the power moves are for. So power moves are to make bigger movements. Power up is for posture, because the better our posture is, the easier it is to move. The rock is for weight shifting, because weight shifting can be impacted by Parkinson's. The better our weight shifting is, the easier it is to take a step. Um, twist, just being a little bit more flexible in your trunk, I would say isn't the most highly correlated for the specific thing we're talking about. But power, having good posture is relevant. The weight shifting is very relevant. And then taking a step is extremely relevant. All the practice we do of multi-direction steps. So I'd say one, the goal still is just to, keep working towards getting back into your normal exercise routine of aerobic exercise, power moves, the other classes at whatever rate you're able to, and know that everything that you're doing is benefiting you. So it's all going to help you be able to move around in your kitchen better as you get back into exercise, as you get into the aerobic exercise and increasing blood flow up to your brain. Your brain's going to be primed and ready to move better. So the aerobic exercise is going to help you, whether it's bike or treadmill, whatever amount you can handle right now that doesn't aggravate how your ribs are feeling. Hopefully you're getting close to the point where the ribs are going to start feeling a lot better. But any amount of aerobic and endurance exercise you can do, you're doing that. Any power moves that you can do, you're doing that. You're doing them big. You're working on weight shifting. So all the power moves really contribute to being able to move better in that way. But to work on then specific,
I never ever once thought of freezing. So I went in and I thought, oh, I better start working on balance. But of course, today I was able to do cardio and power moves. So I never
awesome.
thought of it all contributing. But when I looked in the library, I think there's 2 lectures on balance. But when you put in balance, just the balance weeks, I think, come up, right?
Yes, hopefully the lectures that I've done also come up, but yeah, if it's like sort of I'm not exactly sure how the search things show up. So there could be a lot of classes that are like balance week, themed, that are the ones that come up first and not necessarily lectures. At that point, I think that you might be able to search like educational lecture
The
balance,
two
and you might be
lectures
able to,
come out
okay, okay,
right
good.
away.
Okay. So yeah, so it is balance, but I think just like balance is a big umbrella term, and there's a lot of different ways that we use our balance and that balance can be impacted. And so when you specifically say like a turn, my right foot doesn't move, my left foot steps over, to me, that is the right foot not moving is freezing. And
Okay.
again, every symptom that is experienced is on a spectrum. So this is mild freezing. The right foot will move when you're going other directions. Maybe it's just fine. It's just this specific instance where you're shifting to the right and there's weight on that right foot that it's harder for it to lift up and move. Um, so I do think that's what's going on a relatively mild instance. Like you're maybe not noticing it, like if you just go to walk forward or in anything else. So watching the balance classes or balance lectures definitely helpful. Working on weight shifting. If you're noticing that your weight feels like it's more towards the front of your feet all the time, working on that weight shifting front and back, because we do want it to be a little bit more in the middle. We shouldn't feel like our weight's way back on our heels or way forward on our toes. It should be kind of evenly distributed front to back and, kind of evenly distributed side to side. So you might also notice like that you tend to have your weight more a little bit on one side than the other. So the weight shifting is definitely a really good exercise to do. So you can do that and do some practice in addition to exercise class. Weight shifting forward and back, weight shifting side to side with your feet in different positions. So imagine that my feet are on the ground, that this is the ground. So straight next to each other is good to practice. It's also good to practice more in a stride stance, in a wider base of support, a more narrow base of support, the other foot in front and behind. So all different bases of support. So I'd say weight shifting and then multi-direction stepping. Those are the 2 most important things to practice, that if you get them within a class you're doing already, great. Maybe you do a little bit more later or early, or another time during the day just to get some more practice in. Or if you feel like, okay, we didn't work on these things very much in the classes I did today, so I'm going to do some separate practice of weight shifting, of multi-direction stepping. And then ideally you take it into the actual environment where you notice the challenge. So like you practice, if you're going to do it separate from class, you practice your weight shifting and your multi-direction steps in the kitchen. And multi-direction stepping can be where you are facing the same way, but you practice stepping in all different directions, but also working actually on turns is a very good thing to practice. And yes, essentially You want to do it with amplitude. So you want to exaggerate the step, which might feel like a march, might look like a march. But yes, that's how you counteract the foot not moving. You move it bigger than what it feels like it needs to be moved. And then with repetition and practice, you will start to be able to step more naturally again. And you won't have to think about it. But you do have to practice, kind of retrain your brain for that bigger movement. That's the whole theory behind amplitude training. And once you get in enough practice, then it will start coming out more naturally again.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, a message in the chat. So, question, do you have suggestions for how to record the work we are doing, and a way to plan to stretch ourselves, like a graph or a table or an app or Atomic Habits? So great question, Sarah. And first off, I want to see, does anybody here feel like they have a good way to track their workouts of what they're doing and to maybe set goals in terms of progressing? Does anybody have anything that they do that they would like to share?
Do you remember what Billy said she does? She copies out the page, I think, of the calendar and then marks down what she does on the Rogue schedule, which I always thought was really pretty cool. She has a whole notebook of the Rogue calendar and marks off, I think, what she does. I think she still does that, but I was pretty impressed when I heard that.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I'd say, Sarah, there's a couple things to think about first. One is, yeah, do you want it to be digital or do you want it to be, is analog the right word, like paper? It sounds like, Billy maybe prints things out, makes notes, writes what she does, and she has a notebook where she keeps track of all of that. Or there's the option of keeping a spreadsheet or something that is more digital. So, Sarah, do you have a thought or preference? Are you able to unmute? What you think you would be easier to keep track of and would be more helpful? I'll ask to unmute if you can agree to unmuting.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, there you go.
Hello. Well, I try to send stuff to my neurologist by text, like I have an email for him. And so it's nice to have a digital thing for that, but just for keeping a record for myself, I'm okay writing it on paper. It feels like it's so many dimensions, right? You're trying to write the number of times you're doing it, but you're also trying to think about how you're pushing yourself and about how you were doing that week and just
Yeah.
that's the way.
What might be helpful first is to kind of journal and write it down on paper and decide basically what are the variables that I want to include. And then you could probably make like a custom spreadsheet, because this is something that might be a little bit different for each person, exactly what they want, what you want to track. So I'd say, what do you feel like you were sharing with your neurologist? Time is probably a common thing, like how long did I do something for? And then, if you have a specific goal of something you want to be able to do, kind of measuring progress of like, what would it mean to be able to do that thing? That's why sometimes it does help to do something like, a 5K or a 1 mile distance and like time yourself. So yeah, having goals I think is really important. So you have something specific that you're working towards, or something that if I'm able to do this or achieve this, I feel like I've accomplished something. Overall, that's just a good feeling, to feel like you set a goal and you met it, but it also gives you a bit of structure in how you're tracking things, because it can be a lot. And I don't think you necessarily need to write down every single thing you did. Do you use our brain health checklist at all?
Yes, but sometimes I feel like really structured. I want to get everything down, and sometimes I'm like, the spectrum of this is so broad, and I feel so overwhelmed. I need to simplify. My daughters record their workouts on an app called Strava, Strava. I don't know if anybody's heard of that. I'm just trying to think if there's a way to, record it and catalog it.
Yeah, and I think Strava is an app as well. I haven't used it myself. I also have friends who use it. And I'm guessing like you can, in addition to like aerobic things or where it maybe measures your distance, you can also like input other types of workouts, right? Do you know? Have you seen how they use it?
Well, I got on it and I've been trying to use it, but it doesn't have as many things as we do, right? Like it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have boxing or hit
Mm-hmm.
or a bike or a stationary bike or whatever.
Mm-hmm. So like
So I
one
just
option
wondered
is
if
that
you,
you use an app like that already exists and you just input stuff. Does anybody else use an app to track workouts at all? Because there also are some other apps. And I know there are some that are developed for people with Parkinson's specifically, but that's something that I haven't had very much time to investigate or check any of them out. Has anybody used any of those? Um, Yeah, Linda was saying she has seen several different kinds of exercise journals, but that's on paper. Um, and I do think, I mean, writing stuff down on paper and then summarizing what you send to a doctor, I think is not a bad idea anyways, because if you had a lot of data in an app and you just sent them something from the app, they may or may not be able to look at all of that. So I
no,
think
you're right.
having something that you use, whether it's a journal, a piece of paper, but you write down like what is important for you. And then it's either on like a weekly basis or a monthly basis that you kind of summarize what you've done. And, are you making progress towards your goals? I think having a goal or a couple goals is a great idea. And then thinking about, okay, I want to write down the form of exercise I did and the amount of time that I spent doing it. And are you measuring heart rate?
Sometimes I'm
That I
more
think,
measuring like with if I'm gonna black out or like how
say that
long I can
again.
go. I'm more watching like how often I get the black spots and feel like I'm gonna black out, right? Than the the heart
Mm-hmm.
rate.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I feel like I'm getting sweaty, like trying to just get it up to that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely measuring sweatiness and measuring something like the blackouts where it's a little bit hard to know at this time. Is that something where you're experiencing low blood pressure or what exactly is happening there? I'm not so sure. Do you have a way of measuring your heart rate though?
Just
Manually? Okay.
yeah,
So, I mean, having a way to measure your heart rate, I think for you being wanting to be dedicated and consistent, I think would be really helpful for you. I think being able to see when you get those black spots and, aren't feeling so well, what is your heart rate when that's happening? There's a chance that you're pushing too much and going too high. So I think having that objective data would be helpful. So that may be something that like you ask for Christmas from your kids or something is either like a heart rate monitor. We use one called Scosh that it kind of made a newer version of it. I like it. It is less expensive than like an Apple Watch or other things like that. You wear it on your arm when you're exercising. It does have to connect to an app for you to see what your heart rate is, though it does not show it on the heart rate monitor. So it's a little bit less expensive. And if you do use like certain apps to connect it those apps will keep track of your workouts over time. So that's one benefit. Like it will keep track of at least some, time, type of workout, heart rate during the workout. It would keep track of some statistics. Um, but I think for you, like if you're wanting to be like follow the research and be consistent and track things, I think heart rate is one of the things that you should be tracking. So you can get a heart rate monitor like Scosh. Polar is another one that is a very well-known brand that is shown in research to be accurate. And when you're getting one for yourself, using the chest band is possibly even more accurate than using like the armband. We use the armband because we're using in classes. That's what is easy to put on people, take it off, clean and everything. But a chest strap is more accurate. So you could ask about getting like a polar chest strap. You can look on places like eBay, Amazon. Like a lot of times you can get a secondhand one that works just fine. The person washed it, you wash it when you get it. And so you can get it less expensive. And then with the polar, there's a specific polar app that you use that you see and it tells you what your heart rate is during workouts. And again, like it tracks things. I used the polar app on a research study that I worked on. Um, and I just used it on the research study. I've never used it myself. But I think it has quite a few different workouts. And I don't know if you can put in custom workouts and say I'm doing something like HIIT or power moves, something that is different than what they have, or if you kind of have to say sometimes like a app will have yoga, and like that's when I do power moves, I'll call that yoga because it's very similar. So you could track like what you did, how long you did it for in that app, and it could also be tracking heart rate. So Polar is probably the heart rate monitor that I would recommend. If you did think that you would use it for other things, like an Apple Watch is also an option, but that's, you know, hundreds of dollars. That is more expensive than just a heart rate monitor. So that's one thing I would recommend for you. And then, because it might be that when you're getting those black spots and not feeling well, like maybe your heart rate is going up close to 100% and you really like shouldn't be pushing quite that hard. And that will allow you to exercise in the right range. Yes, you want to get your heart rate up above 60% ideally, but there's also such a thing as too high of a heart rate that that you're not going to feel good and it's not going to be helpful physiologically. So it might be helpful to get that information and see what's going on.
Does Polar do blood pressure also, or just the heart rate?
Just as far as I know, just heart rate. I don't know of anything on the market that can assess blood pressure like while you're working out and that's on your body. That's something that San Diego, I think it's UC San Diego, is doing a research study for a continuous blood pressure monitor that would be kind of like I don't know exactly what it looked like, but it'd be kind of like a heart rate monitor, but it would be measuring your blood pressure continuously, which would be a game changer. That would be such helpful information. Yeah, but I don't know of that now. All I know of is, you know, like the regular blood pressure cuffs. They have it for arm and wrist. Arm, I think, is usually more accurate than the wrist. It is super hard when you're exercising to measure your blood pressure while you're moving. And then especially like if you were getting black spots, you might need to like sit down. And then sometimes by the time, even if you do take a blood pressure, you have one close by, you go take it. You didn't capture what your blood pressure was when you had that symptom. So you still don't really know, was my blood pressure really low then and it's already recovered? I mean, it doesn't hurt to take your blood pressure when that's happening because you may still see a correlation like, yep, my blood pressure is pretty low. I need to hydrate more. You know, I need some electrolytes. It definitely could still be helpful, but we don't have a great way right now of really knowing what's going on with blood pressure, like while you're in the moment, while you're doing things. So I do think heart rate monitor is something to ask for maybe for Christmas, or, you know, think about getting a used one should be fine. There's lots of people who buy Polar, you know, chest strap and then aren't using it and they sell it on eBay or elsewhere for, you know, like $15, $20 because at least they're making a little bit of their money, but I don't even know exactly how much they cost to start with either. So that, and then like if I were you, I would probably start with, you know, basically a blank page for a week and just writing down what you did for the week and thinking about what a goal or a couple of goals might be that you would set. And then see of this information, what seems like the helpful, pertinent information to keep track of. Is it total time? Is it your RPE, your rate of perceived exertion? How hard you felt like you were working? Whatever your goal is, if there's kind of a longer term goal, what is your progress? Like, I know you mentioned that you'd started being able to jog a little bit. So a way to measure progress with jogging is like a distance. You know, is there at your house, could you measure out a distance and say like, right now I can jog from A to B and then I need to stop. And then are you able to start heading back towards A and get to the point where you're able to jog back and forth between two targets? You can keep track of that distance or keep track of time. You know, I'm going to do an interval. Can I jog for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds before I need a break? So I think thinking about what your goals are, and then how would you be measuring progress over time with your goals? And then what of your exercise seems like it would be the most helpful to track? And I think
That's
time
really
and
helpful.
intensity level.
Thank you, Claire. With like
yeah,
Linda, I'm a little bit nervous about jogging away from a treadmill, right? Because you don't have the protective arms to grab on if you get black spots or get dizzy. It's just kind of intimidating, but I think we need to get the point where I can do it in the real world. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like how to break
well,
into
yeah, and you don't have to, you know, doing it on the treadmill. You also can do it on the treadmill and same thing measure whether it's a distance on the treadmill or it's an amount of time. You know, that's something that you can track. Like if you're doing an actual cardio class and we're doing, you know, speed 2 for 2 minutes, are you able to do it for 2 minutes or are you able to do it for part of that time? So you still can like, you know, you can still measure progress and change even if you're doing it on a treadmill. But then in terms of progressing off the treadmill, I would say that it's doing it like in an environment where you feel comfortable and the ground is pretty flat. It's not like, depending on what you have access to, grass can be harder to jog in than gravel, but you might also feel a little bit more comfortable because it's softer. I'd find a place that you feel comfortable and just start slow and small, jog, and literally maybe you go like 10 feet and then you walk again. And then you do 20 feet and you kind of make sure that you're picking up your feet as you're jogging, but you just really start slow. I think in terms of the black spots, like knowing, is there something that's sort of a trigger for that? Like, is it when you're really pushing hard? Is it after a minute of pushing hard? Does it have to do with your blood pressure? Like, yes, it's hard to assess blood pressure during a workout when you get symptoms, but maybe you start checking your blood pressure before a workout and you might start to see like sometimes I'm starting low or sometimes I'm starting with a better blood pressure. And what your starting blood pressure is may really have a difference in how you feel during your workout and if you get those black spots or not. Are you pre-hydrating? Are you drinking a bottle of water before you work out for prophylactic improvement?
No, I mean, well, like that's challenging, correct? Because when you're working out, you're eh, you're more likely to have trouble with your urinary symptoms, right? So it's just challenging to try to figure.
Yeah, I think if
Like,
blood pressure is super important, and I would say avoiding black spots or feeling like you could pass out during workouts, from my perspective, is more important than needing to take a bathroom break during a workout. Like, I would say if it takes drinking more before to not have the black spots, but I'm going to have to stop working out and go use the restroom in the middle of class, I would say no problem with that. I think it's way more important to be safe and avoid tunnel vision and black spots. And maybe you feel like, well, I really can't handle a whole water bottle. Okay, then start with drinking a quarter of your water bottle. Or, if like basically the research shows if you get low blood pressure when you work out, if you ever feel lightheaded or dizzy or get black spots or tunnel vision or anything like that when you're working out, there is a very good chance that your blood pressure is low. If you are someone who knows that your blood pressure tends to run on the low side already, exercise can exacerbate that. There are multiple things you can do to help. You can use electrolytes. There are a few different brands on the market. The one that I've gotten most recently that I like that actually doesn't have quite as much sodium in it. It has 250 milligrams instead of Liquid IV has 500 and Element has 1,000. So it kind of depends how low your blood pressure is. And if you have a doctor at all that you're working with, I have it in my bag, so I'm trying to find this one. So one of our members just showed me Hydrify. So this is one that does not have any sugar in it. And it has 250 milligrams of sodium, so it's not quite as high in sodium. A lot of our members, when we try to give them Liquid IV, do not like it because it's so salty and it's sweet. And so for some people, they really don't like the taste. You can always dilute it more. But I would say, Sarah, for you, if your blood pressure is kind of low, and for anyone, I would recommend that you drink water in the morning with breakfast or with your medication. Then you have like a water bottle and you put in an electrolyte at the beginning of the day. And that's the first thing that you drink throughout the day is water with electrolytes to try to help improve your hydration throughout the day. And the electrolyte should help keep the hydration in your system better so that you don't just feel like you're just drinking and urinating it out immediately. So Hydrify or Liquid IV or Element, depending on how much sodium you want, or you could try them and see which ones you like the best.
have you
So
seen this
that's
one, Claire?
okay.
Electrolyte capsules. It's mostly potassium. 100
How much
milligrams of
does it have
potassium.
sodium in it?
500 milligrams of sodium.
Okay. So yeah, that's similar too. So you're having like one of those a day, or how much are you having?
I take one before I go exercise, but I don't
Okay.
know if
And
it's better to have the Liquid IV or to
so
have the
that one's a
capsule.
pill. Basically, you just take the
Yeah.
pill.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would say basically it can only help as much as the water that you take in along with it. So if
Okay.
you're taking that pill but not actually drinking very much water, I don't think it would be as helpful. So whether that or Liquid IV is better, I would say the only reason that the powder that you put in water might be better is that you might actually drink more water along with the pill. So if you put this like in, a minimum of 16 ounces, but possibly 20, or like I use the big like mason jars at home that I think are 24 ounces. So that's usually
Okay.
what I put at whatever electrolyte I'm using. I put in
So
24
you get a
ounces of
bottle
water,
of,
and then
uh-huh,
I drink all that water.
uh-huh.
So I think that you taking the electrolyte, I think you're not taking in enough fluids for it to really help you. So you could keep taking the one that you have for sure. Like you should use that, but you should
But not the
drink
water.
water with it. So electrolytes can help with low blood pressure. An abdominal binder can help. So on
Got
Amazon,
one.
just a simple
I
stretchy
got
abdominal
one.
binder. Okay. So
So
that
you
can
did.
help
That's
keep the
gonna
blood
help.
pumping and not pool in your stomach, basically.
Right.
And then drinking, what the research says is drinking 500 ounces, which equals, no, 500 milliliters. 500 ounces would be that. I was like, that's not sounding right. 500 milliliters is 17 ounces. So a lot of water bottles, like you can look and see, I don't know. I think
That's
this
what you
one
should
is
do with the workout. You should have 17 ounces with the workout.
right
It's like
before as a prophylactic.
right before. Before I
Mhm.
got sick, I would try to drink a gallon of water before noon. But it's harder to do that now that I'm sick. So it's trying to figure out how much you should be getting in is a
Mhm.
challenge. It
And in
is helpful.
general, for our bladder, it does help our bladder for us to sip water throughout the day and take in fluids like slowly over time. So in general, you might say, okay, like how much would you say you are drinking per day now? How many ounces? What would you estimate?
Probably four of these. It's like a tall, like Yeti kind of cup a
Okay.
day.
Do you think, yeah, it should say how many ounces it is because I think they have different sizes of them. So, but it's like probably 20, if not
It's
more.
probably a quart mason jar.
Pardon?
Yeah, it's probably a quart.
How many ounces is a quart? Is that
And
32?
quart is 16 ounces.
I can Google it. How
It's
Is
16.
many
it
ounces?
32? Oh,
That's what
It's,
I was thinking.
well,
16,
Like
it's
a quart is
32
half a gallon,
around.
right? Yeah. Okay.
six,
Yeah,
Okay.
16 in a pint.
And you're
that's
having
right.
four of those?
I think so.
Okay. That is, I would say that's plenty of water. That's like
Four quarts in a
120
gallon.
some, 128. So yeah, I think that's plenty of water throughout the day. But yeah, you might need to front load it a little bit more if you can. And then the difference, so just sipping on water throughout the day is definitely helpful. The electrolyte is helpful. And then the difference, so when you drink 17 ounces of water at one time quickly, so basically what the research shows is not only is it hydration, but it actually changes like the osmolarity in the blood. And so it causes a sympathetic response, which increases your blood pressure. So that's why, like, when I say drink a bottle of water before you work out, it's not just for the hydration, it's because it actually affects your sympathetic nervous system in a different way. So
But
I
I
think,
thought Parkinson's has a lot to do with the sympathetic system, and we're trying to avoid the sympathetic, right? But this is a trigger for sympathetic, and it's good.
so, um, I mean, it's good to be functioning like our sympathetic nervous system is important. And we when we're exercising we're more likely to be operating. We also want to do things that help our parasympathetic system function well, and that's meditation and relaxation and things like that I would say is different than what I'm talking about here. I'm just talking about the mechanism by which drinking a bolus of water actually helps your blood pressure be higher so that you could exercise without having black spots if the black spots are coming from low blood pressure. So if you're drinking, 130, 128 ounces per day already, I'm not saying drink more water than what you're already drinking. I think you are drinking adequate water. Maybe
That's
even
plan.
around 100 ounces might be a little bit better. It's possible to drink too much water. Um, and I think what I've seen most recommendations for people with low blood pressure from neurologists is like 80 to 100 ounces of water is how much they recommend, which for a lot of people is a lot of water. So maybe
Oh, this
you
is so
actually
great.
even try going down a little bit, but
Down.
of the 100 ounces that you're going to drink during the day, you drink 17 of it. You have a glass or a water bottle that is right about 17 ounces, and you drink that as quickly as you can with good swallows, within 20 minutes before you exercise, so that you experience that adjustment and a little bit higher blood pressure that'll help you feel better when you're exercising.
Great, Claire. Thank
That
you
makes
for all
sense?
those answers. Great, great.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so I do think, like, I'm sorry I don't have an exact answer in terms of the exercise tracking. I think it is tricky because, it's not the same for everyone. So I think setting goals, making some notes first, and then thinking about, do I want to have this on paper or do I want to have it electronically? And then write down, like, what are the parameters that you want to track each day? Um, and, I think it's something that will evolve over time. I think you'll start tracking some things and then you might realize, like, oh, this is actually a little bit more what I want to track. I want to track the least amount of things, but what's the most important? If I track one or two things per day and that's helpful versus, tracking a whole bunch of different things. Because that is the problem. Like, too much data, like, you never have time to do anything with all that data anyways. And in terms of sharing it with any doctors, you are likely going to have to summarize it for them. So the notes and things that you write down are for you to then be able to summarize to someone else. If you send them a whole bunch of data, they're probably not going to look at it realistically. And Gay shared an update in the chat that the hip pain is better, a plus. Yes, that is so awesome, Gay. I'm very excited to hear that. And then Sage, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I thought maybe you have any thoughts about um, how to kind of coordinate taking meds, eating breakfast, and exercising. Is
Mhm.
I mean, today I was just like, I wound up eating. It wasn't elegant at all.
Mhm.
I felt like having too much food was not good for the exercise, and then I feel like I had my meds with food, which I try not to do. So
Mhm.
how to coordinate all that. And is it better to exercise with a minimal amount of food before you exercise? Or
Yeah, good question. I'd say so, yeah, I would kind of write down, and we can do this. We'll write down like what your typical medication schedule would be when you would usually eat breakfast and when you want to exercise. And we would look and see how those things line up and then maybe tweak them a little bit. When it comes to eating and exercise, that's something that I'd say varies quite a bit. Um, I think for most people, it is good to have had something to, even if it was like a piece of fruit or one piece of toast with a little bit of peanut butter. I think most people feel better and have better energy. They have glucose to exercise with eating something. But I would say most people don't feel great eating after a big meal.
mhm.
So looking at kind of what the schedule is going to be, it's like, okay, what's something kind of light that I could have before I exercise? And then I have a snack kind of ready to go, like a trail mix or something that's going to have some good protein, fat, and carbs, and then go have lunch. But I do think with your drive here that having something that you have as a snack for right after you exercise is going to feel good.
Yeah.
Before you actually go and have lunch. So do you mind sharing? Can you tell me like what your current medication timing is?
So it's 7 o'clock and then 3.5 hours in between.
Okay, so 7 a.m., 10:30, then 1 o'clock,
Yes.
4:30, then 5, 6, 7. Do you take one at bedtime? Like
Yes.
10:30? Okay, so 7, 10:31, 4:37, 10:30. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then when would you usually have meals? Do you have a consistent timing?
Well, sometimes when I wake up, I'm not hungry
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't feel right to eat. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but then I have to take other medicine that I need food with. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so if I had, um, you know, 7, 12, 4 or 5, and then a snack before night.
Okay, so that would be like 7 a.m. for breakfast
Mm-hmm.
or something. And then usually around noon, 4 or 5 for dinner. You kind of eat on the earlier side.
Mm-hmm.
And then a little snack later in the evening before bed.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you said just today, you said you're going to switch your exercise to be back on the morning schedule is the plan.
On Mondays and Wednesdays.
Okay. So what is on those days, what would your exercise schedule be?
Well, I've been at 9 o'clock. I was hoping to go to open gym, 9 o'clock, and a 10:15 class.
So open gym at 8 or in that 8 a.m. hour,
Yes.
and then a class at 9 and at 10,
Right.
15. And then on the other days, on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, what is the exercise class schedule?
I'm going to come in at 12:30 on Tuesdays, so I can just have half an hour on treadmill before a 1 o'clock class.
Okay. And then just 1 to 2 for class then? That's Tuesday.
Yes.
Okay. Thursday.
Thursday, it would be, I like the 1 o'clock and the 2 o'clock class that I do now. And I don't know if I should add the 11:30 also.
I think 3 classes would be a lot. I think 2 is a good place
Okay.
to aim for. And then what about Fridays, since we're only have classes in the morning?
Right. So Fridays, I have ping pongs to set up.
Oh yeah.
So
Okay.
I don't come in.
Okay. So coming here Monday through Thursday, Monday, Wednesday morning, and then Tuesday, Thursday afternoons. So, I would, if it were me, I would have medication like at bedside. So I'd be ready to take that 7 a.m. dose right when I get up, and I'd kind of go brush my teeth, get ready. And then I would plan on having something light. What do you normally eat for breakfast?
Well, today I had, it was too much oatmeal with some um, pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds and a little walnut with
Mhm.
blueberries.
That
Yeah.
sounds great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, to have something light the meds that you need food with, having an apple, a banana, if you want to have like a little bit of a nut butter on it or something, just for a little bit more substance, but I would say light, like just the fruit with maybe a little something or a couple nuts, like a banana and a few walnuts,
Good.
something light in the morning before coming to exercise class. And then I would recommend having something like trail mix or, a peanut butter and jelly, something that still maybe seems kind of breakfasty, but that you could eat right after class before you go home.
Okay.
And then, so you talk about having lunch around noon and then you take a pill at 1 p.m. So is lunch is around noon usually?
Yes.
Okay. What do you usually have for lunch?
Vegetables. I'm trying to get enough fiber after the last lecture I heard.
Mhm.
So some beans and rice and a
Mhm.
vegetable nearby, or a salad
Mhm.
with some beans and rice in there.
Okay. Yeah, I think that sounds great. And does it usually feel like eating lunch at 12 and taking meds at 1? Does that feel okay?
Yes, that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that sounds good. And then dinner, and you're taking medication at 4:30 and then eating dinner around 4 or 5. Does that feel like it's okay?
Um, I think it's okay. I think it's okay. What
Okay.
happens though after I exercise regularly is that I don't need as much dopamine, so I can go longer in between, and then that makes me a little bit more confused.
Mm-hmm. Because does it feel like it's different if on the days that you exercise in the morning versus the afternoon? Or it just feels like sometimes you exercise and then you don't feel like you need as much medication, but sometimes you still feel like you need just as much? Or
Um,
what's the confusing part?
the confusing part is if I take meds at 1 o'clock and I've just exercised, I don't need them until 2 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
But then I don't, then I get all confused about when the next dose is.
Mm-hmm. And how much do you take per dose?
1.5.
Okay.
That sounds
For
like an
each.
awesome problem to have, to not need as much dopamine.
Yeah. Sage started doing intensives, like that'll be 3 years ago this January, right, Sage? And on our Instagram, you have to like scroll back, but we haven't posted a lot that recently. So you'd probably find those videos. But Sage shares after, like, she did an intensive for a month, and each week afterwards, she shares like what her experience has been and feeling better and like needing less meds. So, Sage, what I would recommend is, instead of, when you feel like you're doing well and you don't need as much, instead of changing the timing of your meds, I would take like one instead of 1.5. So I would still
Okay.
take it at 1 p.m., but I would take one, not 1.5,
Okay.
so that you can stay on the same schedule.
That's
Because
good.
I agree that like changing your schedule on a daily basis can be confusing. So I think it's in most cases better to try to keep the schedule the same, but just make slight tweaks in terms of the amount of dopamine. And if you're like, I don't feel like I need as much, then take one. Hopefully in your pill container, you still have the half. So if like an hour later, you're like, oh, I kind of feel like I need it, then you can take the half then.
Yeah, that's good.
To give you a little bit of a boost, but you can take slightly less any of the doses throughout the day that you don't feel like you need as much. And does that happen when you exercise in the afternoon? Does it ever feel like it affects your 4:30 dose? Like you don't feel like you need as much?
Yes.
Or, okay. So yeah, so same thing then, without changing your schedule, you could just go down to 1 pill instead of 1.5.
Yeah, that's great.
Can I ask
That's
a
really
question?
helpful.
So
Mhm.
Sage, you're exercising once in a day, that is making your medicine all day be less and less needed.
Well, when I was doing the intensive, I think it built up. It was like more cumulative. It wasn't the first week that I didn't need any meds, that it was so much lessened. It just felt
Oh,
like it,
how many
it
weeks?
That one went under the sink.
I don't remember. I remember having progress every week. It was something good.
Yeah, I think it was week like 3 or 4 where you said, I'm not needing as much medication. And Sarah, it can happen both ways. So I would say for some people, they feel like they just don't need as much for the dose right after they exercise. Like they do feel like they get a boost in real time, and it's the dose right after that they don't need as much. But like, and that's kind of a short-term effect of a dopamine boost. But then I'd say there also can be a longer term where some people over time don't feel like they need as much per dose, or they feel like they can go a little bit longer between doses. So it
You've
can
got
happen that way
mad
too.
skills, Claire. You got mad skills. It's awesome.
Um, so yeah, for Sage, that like back then with the intensive, I think Sage, you both were taking a little bit less and you were able to spread out the timing. Now
Mhm.
it sounds to me like what you're saying is more just when you exercise, you feel better, and it mostly impacts the dose right afterwards.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel so good that I don't remember to take it.
Yeah. And every once in a while, that if that happens, like, yay that you felt that good. You just take it as soon as you remember. Or if you're pretty close to the next dose when you remember, you might just wait, take that next dose on time, and then continue per the schedule.
Yeah, thank
Um,
you.
so I think in terms of coordination, I think the timing that you're taking it is good. The 7, 10, 30, 1, 4:37, 10:30, 1.5 pills, unless you feel like you need a little bit less, in which case you take one. You keep that half available if you feel like you need it at any point. In terms of meals, probably like, what time are you waking up?
6:30.
Okay. Um, so would you say 7 a.m. is the time that you're actually eating?
Somehow I use 7 o'clock as a benchmark to start taking the carbidopa, levodopa.
Okay. So I think if you're eating something first thing that's pretty light, like fruit or something like that, I don't think it will impact your 7 a.m. dose too much. Otherwise, realistically, like if you're taking your dose pretty quickly after you've woken up and then you're
Yes.
getting things ready, there probably is about 30 minutes before you're actually eating something. So just give a little
Yes.
bit of separation for the medication to be absorbed into your system.
Right.
And then with the timing of lunch and dinner, it's a little bit close to medication timing, but if it works, like, you don't worry about it. So medication, how well it can be absorbed into your system is, different people feel differing levels of how much food impacts it and what you eat makes a difference. You know, how much fiber you're eating helps keep things moving. If you eat a lot of protein at a meal, it may slow things down a little bit. And I think having a schedule that's set up that works in your life as well as possible is important. And then I think it also is important not to spend too much time thinking like, oh, well, I just ate and I took medication and is this okay or not? If in general you're doing okay, it's fine. If
Yeah.
you feel like it is a problem for me, if, you know, I take my medication and food is close and now my medication isn't working and I can't move, then it's problematic. And then you need to be more careful about the timing. But if in general it's working okay, you're eating healthy food, you're eating fiber, things are moving throughout your system, you're absorbing medication just fine, then don't worry too much, you know, if things are a little bit closer together. And then in terms of exercise, so yes, I think that eating something before exercise, but something light. And even like if you did have oatmeal, maybe it's just having a small serving. Like it's not a whole bowl of oatmeal, it's a
Mhm.
small bowl of oatmeal with a little bit less, you know, before, because I think that's a good breakfast, but the quantity of what you eat definitely
Mhm.
makes a difference. So I think having something light before you exercise and then having a snack ready to go afterwards, that is healthy. And then lunch and dinner sound like they are working out pretty well. When you exercise in the afternoon, when do you have lunch? You don't have lunch at 12 if you're coming here at 12:30, right?
I usually do. I usually have something.
Okay. Yeah. And that feels like that's working fine.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. So I think just eating a little something before exercise, having a snack for afterwards, and then lunch and dinner after that.
Okay. That sounds much more organized than it was in my mind.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. You're welcome. Yeah, it's important. I mean, if you like, I've recently heard a doctor say like it doesn't matter. And I don't think that's helpful. I think it does matter and it's something to take into consideration. It's even like anything that's getting absorbed into your system, like alcohol is an example that I think a lot of people kind of know about. When you drink alcohol on an empty stomach, it's very different than when you drink alcohol after having eaten something. And I'm at the age like I don't drink on an empty stomach. You know, I'm trying to minimize alcohol
Right.
intake in general, anyways, because it's not good for me. And if you don't drink any alcohol, good. Like that is the healthiest thing to do. I am definitely minimizing. But if I do drink on an empty stomach, I feel it much more, and that's not necessarily a good thing. But it just makes sense that anything we're taking in is going to be impacted in some way by the food that we're
Mhm.
eating. If it's going, you know, if it's something we're swallowing and it's getting absorbed in our stomach or our digestive system. But it doesn't mean that you can't take medication near when you have meals. You have to see like what works for my life, what works for my schedule. Does it feel like it impacts me significantly? If not, it is fine. And I think that's basically what doctors are saying, but they're just saying it doesn't matter instead of saying it's
Mhm.
okay. And you just got to figure out what works for you. Some people are super sensitive and it is important for them to take medication an hour before meals, in which case you adjust your medication meal timing to support you in feeling your best.
That's great. Do you recommend the water intake that somebody mentioned for everybody to upload with water?
I think for most healthy adults, it's basically somewhere between 60 and 100 ounces is what most people benefit from. I think anyone drinking less than 60 might start to experience more things like constipation because hydration is so important and just other things. So 60 is kind of probably around the minimum that most people should be trying to take in per day. And then if they have low blood pressure or constipation, it can be helpful to be on the upper end, closer to 100. So somewhere in that range is appropriate for most people.
But do you think that we should take it like, like a whole
Oh,
4
the water
ounce?
bottle right
Yeah.
before? That I would say is only if someone is experiencing low blood pressure.
Okay.
So if your blood pressure is normal, then I think just drinking the water, however you like to drink your water throughout the day is totally fine. The
Okay,
drinking
great.
a bolus of water right before you exercise is basically to reduce the risk of your blood pressure dropping when you exercise.
Well, one good thing about switching my exercise in the morning is I get to do this call with you. So thank you.
You're
Very
welcome.
helpful.
Yes, you're welcome. All right, we have a couple more minutes. Anyone else have anything to share or a question? Okay, hey, how's your exercise going? Have you felt like you've been able to progress at all yet?
I did, and then I had the procedure, and I on Friday and I've just
Oh yeah, it was
zoned.
on Friday.
So I'm
Mhm.
climbing back up the mountain again.
Yep. All right. Well, at least you're through having that procedure done. That's good to be on the other side.
Yes.
Do you have any other planned procedures or medical things coming up now?
Not that I know of.
Okay, well, hopefully it stays that way. And then now hopefully you feel like you'll just have the time to be working your way back up to where you were before without interruptions.
Right.
All right. Anything else?
I just want to see more of Sage, so I'm looking for her right now on Instagram.
Yeah, it was in January.
The first year was in January, and the second year was January and February.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, if you go to like, the main grid and then you just scroll down, it really probably isn't that far back because we've not been posting super consistently on social media for a couple of years, honestly. So that was February 2024. Here's one. This is January 26, 2024. Sage's bright blue shirt. So that was the second time you did the intensive, I think, right, Sage?
Hmm.
Oh, maybe not, because here's another one right there.
What does it look like for you, Sage? Like, how much are you exercising every day?
Well, I'm trying to get back to having more intensity. So I try and do between 5 and 8 classes at Rogue a day, a week, I'm sorry. So I'm trying to do the 2 hours a day.
And are you tracking your heart rate when you're doing that?
When I'm hooked up to the machine at Rogue, I am.
Wow.
It tells me that it's in the blue zone. That's the main thing I'm focusing on now. I felt like I needed more cardio at a higher heart rate level, and it's
5
not.
to 6 classes a day.
No, sorry, a week.
Oh, a week. Okay.
5 to 10 classes a week. When I did the intensive, I did 10 classes.
10 classes a week, so 2 a day.
Yes.
And so,
then-
yeah, if you scroll down, you'll start to see there's a couple videos of Sage that are all close together, like gray shirt, purple shirt, blue shirt. So you scroll down, like this gray shirt is the first one that we posted.
So it again. I'm looking.
And that's from January 2024.
Instagram's so hard to search.
Yeah, I wouldn't search. I would just go to like go to Rogue's pages and look at our grid and then just scroll down on our grid. And like
I'm
scroll
in
for a little
this
while
grid.
and then click on it and see like, okay, what date is that? Is that before or after January 2024? Go back out and go a little bit
in
further.
January 23, so I'm too far.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
That's too far. She's earlier. She's January
So
24.
yeah, then
you
come
said?
back up higher.
When did you say she was January 24?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's where there's
Yeah.
like 4 or 5 videos posted during that time.
Okay. And she's on a gray shirt in one of them? I think I might
Gray
have-
shirt is the first 2, and then there's a purple shirt and a
This one.
blue shirt
This
also.
one, right? Is this safe? This
I think
one's you,
that's
right,
it,
Steve?
Sarah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Fun.
Yeah.
I'm
So
gonna
yeah,
like
watch
it.
those. Those are good inspiration. All right. Well,
Well,
thank you all so much
thanks
for joining today. Great discussion. And yeah, Sarah, let us know what you do end up starting to record. I was also going to look up polar chest strap. Let me see, like on Amazon. Share my screen. So 104 is like the newest one. Oh, it is FSA or HSA eligible, if that is helpful at all. They have different years, but then like if you look up on eBay polar chest strap, $22.
Sweet, Claire. That's awesome.
So yeah,
Thank
because
you.
they're, I mean, you may not have like a warranty and stuff, but spending $20 instead of 100, these things really should work for a long period of time. There's not a lot of different. Usually the chest straps, it is a rechargeable battery, so it would come like with a charger for you to charge it. This one's like in the container. That might be good for only $27.
Yeah.
So yeah, looking and seeing what there is on eBay, but it should come with like it should have a charger, and then a chest strap that you actually wear. And if the chest strap you got was worn, like you could replace the chest strap. But that
Okay,
is
so you
the one
said
that I
for
would.
blood pressure, you would do what type of machine?
So, for blood pressure, let's see. Omron is the brand that I would recommend, because not all blood pressure monitors are created equal in terms of research and them being accurate. Omron is a good brand. So Omron for a blood pressure monitor for one at home. And same thing, these are likely going to be eligible for HSA or FSA if that's an option for you. And you could look on eBay. This is something that I would say maybe a little bit better to buy new and just make sure that it's calibrated appropriately. Because you don't want to be going off of faulty data. But having a blood pressure monitor where you could check your blood pressure before you exercise. And if you're really low, that's a day you need to do your bolus of water. If it's a good blood pressure, then you could see if I start good, if I'm at 120/80 when I start, I feel good during the workout, I don't get the black spots. Or does your blood pressure tend to drop during exercise? In which case it might be that you say, I'm going to do a bolus like halfway through exercise, to try to, if it's starting, if it starts to drop during exercise.
Okay, so you would try to throw back 17 ounces of water before you exercise, and it would not have the IV nutrition in it, liquid IV, just straight
Probably
water.
not. I would be putting electrolytes in a water bottle like that I start drinking in the morning, and I would try to like have that water bottle drink, before lunchtime or something. So I would just have that kind of in your system, and then I would just do plain water as the bolus.
Okay. And then
If it
maybe
helps to
not,
have a little bit of flavoring in the bolus, like you could put a little, like if it tastes better and it's easier for you to drink a whole water bottle with a little bit of flavoring, then it's okay to have the flavoring in it. But
that's
for some
fine.
people, it might feel like that's intense. But it's actually, you know what? For how it works physiologically, it might actually need to be plain water because
Okay.
like it
'Cause it
changing
needs
the
to not for sure.
osmolarity does have to do with like the sodium.
The
So I think
synthetic.
it might be a little bit, it might be it might function a little bit differently if you had the electrolytes in it. And I don't know exactly what that would mean. So I'm pretty sure the research is plain water. So I would drink electrolytes separately and then I would drink plain water for the
Okay, and then for the
bolus.
charting, we've got Billy has a great strategy of just taking your great schedule and looking through it, which Sage also did. Right, when she did her intensive, she did 2 classes a day. And then
Well-
writing about what we're doing and what we're experiencing as we go through and trying to develop the goals through writing.
Yeah. And I
Very
think what
good.
Linda was saying Billy does is she prints off the schedule each week and then she basically circles or makes a note and says, I did this class. So, I did it. And then you could make notes about how you felt or like I was really able to push things. I was able to jog more on the treadmill. You could make notes, but basically just track. And then you could write, 50-minute, 60-minute, depending on the class and like what the length of the workout was. But then it's already there and you just know like this is the workout that I did and this is how long it was. So that just gives you some of the information already. And then she just keeps that in a notebook.
Is there a
So
way
that
to
is one option.
sorry, is there a way to take
Go
your
ahead.
brain sheet and make it so that we can electronically add our scores? Like, can it be editable?
Yeah. The only way I know how to make things editable is a pretty labor intensive. I don't know if there's something where it can be automated. The only thing I've done where I've made it fillable is our assessment form, and it was very labor intensive. It took me like hours to do it. So I don't know if there's something where that can be done easier, but certainly that could be done. I just have not had time to do it.
Yeah, I'll check out Adobe because I think there's a way that they can make a document that's a PDF
Yeah, Adobe is what we do. Like that form is already a PDF. And it's just, is it something where you can input and say like, make all of these fillable spots, or if you have to manually do it for every single one? For our assessment form, I had
Oh,
to
I see.
manually do it, and that's what makes it take a lot of time. So I
Yeah,
haven't had time
I'll
to do that.
investigate.
But if it's something where you can say, upload this form and just anywhere where there's a blank space, make a place where I could fill in information. If it could like do that automatically, it could be a lot faster.
I'll let you know if I
But
find anything.
Okay, good luck.
Thanks.
Yeah, if anybody else wants to try that, you can download the PDF that is on there and use that to put in and see like if it'll do that. That's something that maybe AI will be able to help with. But yeah, the one when I've done the assessment form, I have to do it manually, and it takes me a while.
Well, this has been a great call for me. I'm sorry if I talked too much, but
No, that's
hearing
exactly what this
Susan's
is for.
experience and Linda's
I listened.
experience.
I listened to your interview this morning, Sarah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, it was great.
they're so great. And to get the answers to my questions and the thoughts about that was so great. Thank you for all your skills.
You are welcome. I'm happy to get to use my skills. All right. I'll
I
see you all
agree.
next week.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank
Thanks so
you.
much, Claire. Thanks,
You're
You're
everybody.
welcome. Bye.
Good job, Sage.